Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of Community Connections. In this episode, we're going to be talking about NIMBY versus YIMBY and gaining a better understanding of what that means. According to the California Housing Commission, San Diegans need to earn more than $38 an hour in order to afford the median rent of $2,000. That's 3 times our minimum wage. Cost isn't the only problem though. There's a lack of affordable housing across San Diego. We would have to build over 136,000 homes in San Diego in order to meet our need. And yeah, building affordably priced homes sounds really easy. The only problem is, where do we put them? At the forefront of this issue, we have the NIMBY and YIMBY movements. They're on opposite ends of the fight for where affordable housing should be placed. The question for us today is, does God have an expectation of how we should handle these issues? And what do the facts say about this? What would God allow in His backyard? Let's get into the history of the NIMBY and YIMBY movements. And these words might sound funny, NIMBY and YIMBY. NIMBYs are people who would prefer for affordable housing developments to be placed farther away from their own communities. They believe that building affordable housing in their communities would only cause negative things to happen. YIMBYs, on the other hand, encourage new developments in their own community. YIMBYs usually welcome all types of new developments, whether it be homeless shelters, affordable housing, or anything else that's going to benefit their community. And don't get me wrong, NIMBYs agree that we need affordable housing. We just don't agree on where we should put them. But they were first used in the 80s. A group of Colorado farmers were fighting to keep a hazardous waste facility away from their farms. And this was a well-meaning fight. And normally they would fight against landfills being placed nearby, or a nuclear power plant. But over time, this NIMBY movement became less of a fight against where we should place harmful things, and more so a fight against people of color moving into their communities. But when we're saying that we should keep groups of people out of our communities based on fears rather than reality, that's where it can get harmful. And like those farmers in Colorado, it's okay to say that you don't want a hazardous waste facility near you. That makes sense. People on the NIMBY side usually say that low-income people will bring crime with them. Other people's is built-in subconscious racism. For them, it's easier to keep people of color out of their more affluent and well-off communities. But there's a lot of research to prove that this isn't the case. Harvard studies have shown that having mixed income communities can actually raise opportunities for everybody and make cities safer than they were before.
What is life like when you're spending most of your household income on rent? My name is John O, and I work for LA Voice. So you're not able to save for a down payment, right? So you can be a homeowner. So if there's a major expense, you can be one paycheck or one disaster away from being homeless.
And when 40% of Americans are one paycheck away from poverty, do we have time to argue about where we should build these developments?
One of the questions that a lot of people are asking, why is there such a lack of affordable housing? You may be surprised that there are actually a lot of funds available. The sheer lack of applying for funding, there needs to be a lot of expertise. In fact, seasoned developers actually hire consultants because it's so complex. And so with each application, you have to work on each application separately. It's time consuming. And also, it's extremely expensive to build. There's construction costs that's skyrocketing. Soft costs is really the admin costs, the fees, the architectural costs, project management costs. And then community opposition, also known as NIMBYism, right? So a lot of projects get killed because of community opposition. And then also restrictive zoning. We're running into this a lot. So many of the sites that could be affordable housing can't be because of restrictive zoning. They're zoned for single family. The process of changing the zoning is very, very time consuming. And so many developers just walk away.
Throughout the Bible, we've been told to welcome people and to invite them in as our own. In Genesis chapter 18 verses 1 through 16, we hear the story of Abraham and the 3 strangers. This is the story where Abraham and Sarah take in 3 strangers and treat them as their own, offering them kindness and support without treating them as others. And for their great act of kindness, they were gifted the child that they had wanted for so long. And when the 3 strangers appeared before him, Abraham didn't hesitate. He took initiative and he took care of them. He invited the 3 strangers in, let them wash, and offered them all the food that he could. And of course, Abraham had a reason to fear. He could have. They were strangers. But when God expects us not to hesitate and to take initiative like Abraham, we can't justify building these affordable developments outside of our communities just because of this fear. Of course, there's a risk whenever we take in strangers, but God is asking us to take that risk. And even if we looked at these issues from a purely logical standpoint, there's no information that proves that NIMBYism is beneficial for us. NIMBYism only hurts our communities by pushing more people towards the brink of poverty, left to suffer by themselves. We're being called to say, yes, you are cared for. You do matter. Welcome to my backyard. And there's a lot of things being done about this issue. We have groups like the LA Voice who are working to get churches to build affordable housing on their extra space that they're not using, who also seek to build affordable housing sites in San Diego's churches.
Our focus is in the LA County, but we're actually, whenever there's a potential, we can support it. Also, there's a lack of buildable land. This is where the church can step in.
And we as individuals have a lot that we can do too. We need to support people before they get to those points. When initiatives to build affordable developments start in our communities, we need to welcome them rather than pushing them away. Studies show that everyone benefits when we build these affordable housing developments. It matters most to the kids who come from these backgrounds. They often see dramatic changes for the better, with lower rates of imprisonment overall and higher wages when they're older. So when it comes up on the ballot, don't forget to vote yes. And building these developments isn't all that we can do. We can support programs like the Good Neighbor Center. We can support community fridges and give them food to donate to people. Supporting food initiatives will give people the opportunity to get food for free rather than spending money that they might have needed for their rent.
Families are spending 80% of their household income and more on housing or rent. So rent burden is really a serious issue. There's no money left for other things. You really can't, it's like a cycle. You can't get out of it. And then deciding what bills to pay.
All in all, God's calling us to act like Abraham and take initiative when it comes to building housing for other people. We need to be welcoming of them and offer them a space in our communities to grow with us. And at the end of the day, I hope that we can all take at least one day a month and put it towards bettering this issue. I ask in God's name that we all have the strength to be just as welcoming as Abraham and say yes in my backyard. Check out my article for more information. I'll see you all February 12th. Bye.